move to admit offense exhibit B.
No objection.
Move to publish.
Just so I've got the records, can you tell me again, which one is it?
B
V is in Victor?
Victor.
Okay, that's, I want to make sure I got the right one. We'll show V is in Victor, admitted without objection.
Can you see that up on your screen, Mr. Owens?
Yes.
And your monitor is a touchpad. So can you put a circle around you in that picture? Okay. And then who's standing next to you?
That's Larry, my brother-in-law.
Okay. Larry Jr. or Larry Sr.?
Larry Sr.
Okay. And who is next to Larry Sr.?
Deontay.
Okay. And who's next to Deontay?
Larry Jr.
And who's on the end?
Elias.
And do you know where this was taken at?
It might have been in my backyard.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in my backyard. I see the shed right behind Elias.
Okay. There's a little boy in yellow. Who is that?
That's Jamari, my baby boy.
Did Jamari play football when he was younger?
Yes, all of them play football.
And who coached Jamari when he was younger?
Elias was coaching because he was helping his dad doing the power club, and it was just, they had different ages groups, so so you had the 6-year-old up to 10 and different age groups and stuff.
Okay. So at some point, though, Elias was one of his coaches?
Yes.
How would Jamari get to practice?
I would take him and he would always bring him home for me.
Okay. Were you ever concerned about Jamari being around Elias?
Oh, no.
Did you speak with Elias on April 9th, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And what number did he call?
He called my wife's.
Okay, and is that 317-902-7736?
Yes.
Were you able to hear the call?
At first, when he called her, he was talking to her, and I guess then she switched it over to speaker.
Okay, and so once she switched it over to speaker, you could hear the call?
Yes.
And describe that call.
He called and told my wife that, he said, "Hey Bertha, call the police. Call the police now." I said, "Well, what's going on?" He said that someone's going to kill me and my family. I said, "Well, are you sure?" My wife said, "Are you sure what's going on?" I said, "Call the police now, please, call." I said, "Okay," so I called, dispatch and talked to them.
Did he know where he was at?
No, and I asked him where he was. He said, "I'm in an apartment. I don't know where I'm at."
Had you ever heard Elias sound like that before?
No.
And did you know where he was at?
No.
Did you know who would want to kill Elias or his family?
No.
Well, so when he calls and he's urgently telling you to call 911, what do you do?
Well, I called dispatch, and because for me, a call like that, you don't. Sorry. And so, yeah, I did call.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I have a stipulation of the parties as to a 911 call.
This is number X.
This will be, the stipulation is W,
Okay.
and the call is X.
All right. And so at this point, you wish to read W into the record
Yes, Your Honor.
and state, is that correct? There is stipulation between the parties?
That's right, Judge.
All right, we'll show W then admitted by stipulation of the parties. Again, ladies and gentlemen, consider the matters contained within the exhibit as being conclusively proven. And Ms. Martin, you may read W into the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. Comes now that the defendant in person and by counsel Wayman Casanova and Dina Martin in the state of Indiana by its deputy prosecuting attorney Robert Beatson who agree and stipulate to the following facts. Defense Exhibit X is a recording of a 911 call made at 2:30 p.m. on April 9th, 2020 by Bertha and Fred Owens. Defense Exhibit X is a fair and accurate transcript of that 911 call. A Defense Exhibit X is admissible under the Indiana Rules of Evidence.
So, record will show that W has been read into the record.
And Your Honor,
It will show X then admitted by stipulation of the parties. So that now is into the record.
and at this time I would move to publish Defense Exhibit X by playing it.
You may.
Marion County 911, is anyone experiencing flu-like or COVID-19 symptoms, and what is the location of your emergency?
Yeah, my nephew just called me and said somebody's trying to kill him.
What is the location?
I don't know what the location, I can just hear him talking and said somebody's trying to kill him, because I asked him where he was at, and he asked me to call 911. I got his cell phone number.
I would need a location in order to send officers.
You don't know? I don't know. He just was being called the police.
You don't know.
I don't know. I can just hear it.
We got a number.
I just got a number.
We got his cell phone number.
Okay, if you can hear him on the phone, then tell him that you need the location.
I did.
I know, we tried to get that information from him, but I don't know what's going on. And he couldn't go any further than that. And the only thing we did, he just called my wife. So if we can if he calls back, that's all we can do. We can do that, okay?
Yeah, I gotta have a location. I can send an officer to you.
Well, we wouldn't even know where it's at all. We just got the call. So like I said, I don't know if you can beat the phone, I don't know. You know.
What's the phone number?
Okay. 217 205 1786.
Okay, and what is your location?
5643 Brendan Forest Drive, Indianapolis.
What's your name?
Fred Owen.
Okay, and how old is the son?
Oh, that's my nephew.
Okay, how old is he?
Eliahs, I think he's 27.
He might be 27. I'm not sure.
Do you know what phone provider he uses?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Let me see if I'm solving that. And see if I hear anything.
Does anybody know his home address?
3505 Tacoma.
3505 Tacoma?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a house or apartment?
House.
What's his name?
His name is Elliahs Dorsey.
Elliahs Dorsey.
E-L-I-A-S?
No, Eliza.
E-L-I-Z-A? Okay, and the last name?
Dorsey.
Dorsey.
Okay, I'll start by sending officers to the address of 3505 Tacoma to check for him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Owens, after you and Bertha made that call, did you try to call Elias again?
I think at that time that she was trying to reach his father, and I think that they were trying to connect. And
Would
so, but no, we didn't Yeah, we did call, but I think the line was busy. I'm not sure.
Okay, so you called, but you couldn't get through.
Right.
Did you hear from Elliahs after you made that call?
No.
When was the next time you heard from or about Elliahs?
Well, like I said, we were, just curious about the call, with the urgency of it, and then all of a sudden we saw breaking news. Officer down, and so we looked at each other and I said, "Oh man, I hope this ain't end this."
I don't have any further questions.
You may cross.
Thank you, Judge. Just briefly, good afternoon, Mr. Owens.
Yeah.
That 911 call was made around 2:30 p.m. on April 9th, right?
Yes.
And Elliahs asked you multiple times in that call when he called you, he asked you multiple times to call the police.
Yes.
He said, in fact, call the police now,
Yes.
right? And it was shortly after you made the 911 call that you saw the breaking news.
Yes.
Was it common for Elliahs to carry firearms?
I mean, with your age, your legal age of carrying, I don't know.
Was it, in fact, common for all of the Dorsey boys to carry firearms?
I don't know. I mean, it's the fact that they carry them. They didn't present him around me, in my house. No.
So you didn't see them carry
No.
firearms? Nothing further, thank you.
Are you direct?
No, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you have questions for this witness? Do you see any hands on that, sir? You can step down.
Okay, thank you.
Spencer, may call your next.
Judge, may Mr. Owens be released from this?
Yes, sir.
Comfortable in your chair, can you please tell the jurors who you are and how you spell your name for our record?
My name is Bianca Davis, spelled B-I-A-N-C-A-D-A-V-I-S.
Ms. Davis, will you tell the jury a little bit about yourself, like your education, where you work, that sort of thing?
Yes, so I'm from Indianapolis, went to Ben Davis, went to IU for undergrad, came back to Indy for law school and grad school, and now I do contracts and compliance work.
How do you know Elliahs?
I dated Elliahs for 7 years when we were teenagers in our early 20s.
How did you meet?
We met at a summer internship.
Okay. And who sponsored that summer internship?
United Water, and it was through CLD,
Okay. And what is CLD?
Center for Leadership Development.
Okay. I am showing you what have been marked for identification as defenses of Y to Z. Will you take a look at those and see if you recognize what's depicted?
Yes, I recognize both of these pictures.
And are they a fair and accurate representation of what's depicted?
Yes.
move to admit defense exhibit Y and Z.
No objection.
We'll show Y, I'm sorry, Y and Z?
Yes.
All right. And any objections to Z?
No objection, Judge.
We'll show Y and Z admitted without objection.
Move to publish Y.
You may.
Ms. Davis, what does defense exhibit Y depict?
It's a plaque of our class of 2012, like intern group.
Okay, and so that were all the interns in that United Water internship?
Yes, that's all the names in our cohort.
Okay, and you see your name?
I do.
And Deontay Dorsey, who is he?
That's Eliah's younger brother.
Okay, and then Elias was in there as well?
Yes.
Move to publish defense exhibit Z. And Ms. Davis, the screen on your table is a touch screen. Do you see yourself in this photo?
I do.
Can you draw a circle around where you're at? So you're right there in that pink?
In the pink sweatshirt thing.
Okay. Do you see Deontay Dorsey?
Yes.
And can you draw a circle around him? And is Elias in that photo?
Yes.
And will you draw a circle around Elias? Okay. So Elias and Deontay are right next to each other. corroborate the communication you had with Elliahs Dorsey on the 9th of April?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Defense Exhibit BB for demonstrative purposes.
This is double B as in Baker.
Yes.
No objection, Judge.
We should have double B as in Baker admitted without objection.
Move to publish.
You may.
Okay, so these are listed in Central Time, so everything's actually an hour later. It appears he calls your number at 2:18 in the morning on April the 9th. And you guys talked for about 11 minutes. Does that sound right?
Yes.
And between, at least on this page, between that call and a call that would have ended at 3:17, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. About 14 calls between the two of you. What were you guys talking about?
About some of his crazy stories and how he needed to calm down, leave me alone, get help.
Did it seem he was calming down?
Not really.
So, about 3:18 in the morning to 3:23, he tries to call you like several times back to back, but there's no answer. But then you call him, and it looks like that call lasted about a little over 10 minutes at 3:28. Do you remember that call?
Not particularly.
Okay. Safe to say it was another one of the like crazy or accusatory calls.
Yes.
And after that, it looks like he tries to call you one more time, but it probably went to voicemail because it's only 29 seconds. Did you speak to him again on April 9th, 2020?
No, I don't believe I did.
Going back to when you saw him at your house for the last time on April 8th, 2020, that night, did he look like he did in Defense Exhibit AA?
No.
Did he look more akin to State's Exhibit 140?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
You may cross.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Davis, just to touch on those photos briefly. So he looks more like he appeared in State's Exhibit number 140 than he did in Defense Exhibit AA.
Correct.
Defense Exhibit AA was taken in 2013 at your spring formal.
Correct.
State Exhibit 140 was taken 7 years later after you just been manhandled and arrested by the police after shooting a police officer.
Correct.
Now, you were together for 7 years, correct?
Yes.
And the entire time that you were with him, did you ever see things that weren't there? Did you ever have hallucinations or visions?
No, he would mention
Did he ever
His
hear
friend.
things that weren't there? Did he hear voices? Did he hear voices inside of his head that you didn't hear?
Can you repeat your question?
Did he ever hear voices? Did he ever report to you hearing voices that you didn't hear that were clearly hallucinations?
No.
He was always a kind, generous, and gracious man.
Yes.
Prior to your breakup, in the 7 years that you were together, was there ever any major change in his personality?
Yeah, towards the end,
Before you broke up?
like a little before we broke up.
In that entire 7-year period you were dating, you always felt safe with him, right? You described him as your person.
Yes.
And he played football his entire life before he met you.
Yes.
Played high school football while you were dating.
Yes.
Played a little
No,
in college.
no. We didn't date in high school.
Oh, I'm sorry. So he played high school football before dating you.
Yes.
Played a little bit of college ball while you were dating.
Yes.
Was he using drugs while you were dating?
No. Not to my knowledge, no.
So if he said later on that in the time leading up to the murder, he was using drugs daily, that would have been new behavior that started after you broke up with him, correct?
Correct.
The defendant had a good relationship with his family, correct?
Yes.
His parents were together the entire time that you knew him.
Yes.
And in fact, the week before the murder, when his behavior started to get more concerning, you actually trusted his family to take care of you. You texted his mom, or you texted his brothers.
I texted all of them,
Okay.
his brothers and his parents.
Okay, because you trusted that they were going to give him the help that he needed.
Yes, I hope so, yes.
Now, you said that he starts coming to your house uninvited the week of the murder, and that's a concern for you, right?
Yes.
You live with your parents and they were immunocompromised.
Yes.
You didn't feel safe with him coming to your house and coming inside because you were afraid that he might infect you or infect your parents, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm sure you wanted to help him, right? You were concerned for him,
I was concerned for him, yes.
but you were worried about this pandemic, so you didn't let him, right?
Right.
And in fact, you think that the isolation that he felt during COVID was part of the reason why he had this ripple effect, correct?
Possibly.
Well, you met with an investigator from the defense team, right?
Yes.
Do you remember telling him that you thought that the isolation you faced during COVID was part of the problems that he was experiencing?
That sounds right.
Now, you talked before about bulletproof vest that he would wear sometimes. You understood why he lied, right?
I understood the reason he gave me.
Sure. You correctly pointed out, unfortunately, Indianapolis is a violent city, right?
Yes, it's a violent city.
People get
Say
killed
that.
here. People get killed here over nothing, right?
Right, you could say that.
In fact, you stated before you don't understand why more people don't wear bulletproof vests, given how dangerous the streets are.
Yeah. Well, to clarify, given how dangerous the world is, you can go to a movie theater or a music festival and there's like mass shootings. So not particular to Indianapolis, but I can see why people would be concerned about gun safety and.
That's right. It's everywhere. You could be at a Super Bowl parade, right? There could be a shooting, right? It's a dangerous sport, correct?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the show Doomsday Preppers?
No, but I mean, I can presume what it's about.
Well, the reason I asked is you brought it up earlier with the defense team when you were talking about.
I know what the concept of a doomsday prepper is. I don't necessarily recall watching a show called Doomsday Preppers and like being a fan of it, but.
Do you remember telling an investigator from the defense team that you and the defendant actually bonded over that line of thinking?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't think that his fears about the danger in the world were necessarily unfounded, right?
Correct.
So you began dating in an internship, or when you met in an internship before college in 2012, correct?
Correct.
You broke up in November of 2019.
Correct.
Now, it was your decision to break up with him?
Yes.
Now, you tried to get him back, didn't you?
No.
Because the defendant told one of the doctors that he spoke with that you broke up with him to find somebody better, but then you couldn't, so that you tried to get back with him, but then he rejected you?
No,
Okay, so you at no point tried to get back with him, you dropped him, you were done.
I was not trying to get back with him. We communicated and interacted after our breakup,
Okay.
but not in an effort to rekindle the relationship.
Sure. So now, you go off to college, you go to law school, you go to grad school as well?
Well, I did a JD MBA program, so it was a dual program.
Okay. The defendant graduates high school, he has to go to Ivy Tech to bring up his grades.
It wasn't to bring up his grades, it was a football thing. He wanted to go to a certain school, but the football scholarship money, things didn't work out that way, so he went to a different school. Well, that's my understanding, my recollection of it.
Is that what he told you, that it had to do with football and money and scholarships?
Yes,
And then eventually he did make it to Wilmington College, right?
yes,
But it didn't work out.
correct.
So around Thanksgiving, around the holidays 2019, you're a law school and grad school graduate.
Yes,
He's a college dropout.
yes,
You're starting your career.
yes,
He's bouncing from job to job and then eventually unemployed.
yes.
He's not growing, he's not advancing.
You could say that, you could put it that way.
So then you don't.
I needed to make decisions for my future.
Sure. Now, initially after the breakup, you have a good relationship, right?
Right?
You're not fighting,
Correct?
you're still talking
Yes.
frequently. Now, the defendant eventually told you some things that weren't true about his life after the breakup, right?
Correct.
He told you he was taking online college classes.
I can't remember.
He didn't tell you that he was taking online classes at Indiana Wesleyan.
That sounds familiar.
Do you remember him telling you that he actually had tests to study for and that he had assignments due at specific times?
I don't remember that.
Now, you later find out he wasn't taking online classes, correct?
Yeah, correct. I would assume, yeah.
He also claimed to you that he had moved out of his parents' house, right?
That I do remember.
And that was not true, correct?
Correct.
So in the spring of 2020, is it fair to say that you and the defendant are arguing more frequently?
I wouldn't say that, per se.
At some point, things turned ugly though, correct?
Correct.
At one point, do you remember asking if he was so mad that he could hurt you?
Yes.
And what did he say?
I don't remember.
He began to insist that he needed you back, though, right?
Yes.
You didn't want that?
I do not want that.
By this point, you thought he had turned into a crazy ex-boy, right?
Sure.
And that's a scary thing, right?
Sure. Yep.
So you were a couple for 7 years and you did argue occasionally, but you were always able to resolve.
Correct.
You even broke up several times, but you were able to reach a resolution.
Correct.
But by the spring of 2020, things have gotten ugly, and there's no chance of reconciling, correct?
Correct.
Now, you were understandably frustrated with him, right?
Yeah.
You said some things maybe to hurt him intentionally during the heat of these arguments.
I'm sure I did.
Now, you did tell him that you had moved on and gone on a date with somebody else, right?
Yeah, I told him I went on a date.
But with that little bit of information, he develops these crazy ideas about you cheating on him and seeing other people and being pregnant by his barber, correct?
Correct.
Now, those text messages that you saw from the defendant, I don't know, but he made some ugly statements about what he was doing with his new girlfriend. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
And you said that that type of language and that type of message was totally out of line with his character.
Yeah.
But when you received that message, your first comment was not, why are you saying these things? I can't believe you're talking like that. Your first question is, who is she? Correct?
Correct.
Now, you went to law school. You're aware that there's a legal process in the state of Indiana to force somebody to get mental health evaluation and treatment, even if they don't want to, right?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, you know that there's a process under the law in Indiana where you can force somebody to get a mental health evaluation and mental health treatment, even if they're not exactly willing to, right?
I do not know that.
Now, I'm sure you're aware that there's also a legal process in the state of Indiana to take guns from somebody who's in the middle of a mental health crisis, right?
Sure.
You just looked at the phone records, and the night before the murder, there were approximately 14 calls between you and the defendant. One of them at 3 a.m. lasts about 20 minutes. Another one at about 3:30 lasts 13 minutes. Is that accurate?
That sounds clear.
You were in touch frequently and at great length, late that night, early that morning.
Yes, you could say that.
Now, in all the time that you were speaking with the defendant, at no point did you feel like you had to call the police because he was a danger to himself.
Correct.
I'm nothing further on.
Ms. Davis, the text message to the Dorsey, you indicated you didn't want to call the police, right?
Correct.
You had some fear because Elias is a black man of calling the police.
Correct.
Now, the prosecutor asked you if Elias ever had any hallucinations, any visual seeing things or auditory hearing things that weren't there, and you said not that you know of. But did he have delusions, believing things that weren't true?
Yes.
Like you marrying someone named Tremaine?
Correct.
Was it true that you were sleeping with his barber?
No, that's not true.
Was it true that you had been pregnant or that you were pregnant?
No, that's not true.
Was it true that you were trying to get him back,
No, that's not true.
but he believed all those things?
Yes.
No further questions.
Recross?
No, ma'am, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions for this witness, I see there's one in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're still on the defendant's case in chief. Ms. Martin, you have your next witness available.
Yes, Your Honor, we would call Steve Mormon.
All right, Mr. Mormon, you're appearing by video. Could you raise your hand for me, please? You promise what you're about to tell the jurors to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under pain of penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right, thank you. You can put your hand down. Sir, can you introduce yourself to the jurors and tell us how you spell your name for a record?
My name is actually Stephen Mormon, Steven J. Mormon, Moorman.
Okay, Mr. Mormon, as the judge indicated, you are testifying through video. Why are you not able to come into court to testify?
I am due to have hip replacement surgery on Tuesday. My mobility is at a very limited capacity at the moment. I had somewhat of a fever last couple of days. We just didn't want to take a chance of getting out. Being sick before the surgery, didn't want to take a chance of being rescheduled back in. So, but the main thing is just my mobility is just tough right now, just to get around.
Okay, thank you. So, would you tell the jury a little bit about yourself, where you work, what you do, that kind of stuff?
At the moment, I'm employed by Morris Township. I am a credit recovery teacher, varsity and head freshman football coach. I've been coaching over 32 years. I've been in the school, in education over 24, 25 years. Prior to that, I had 14 years experience in the Department of Corrections, boys school, IIC. I retired from that and started a new journey in Lawrence Township 3 years ago. Okay.
And did you ever play professional football?
I did play for the Miami Dolphins.
Okay. How do you know Elliahs Dorsey?
I know Elias through his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Dorsey, known him at a very young age. His dad and I had coached on the same team before, and then also when I became the head coach, his dad became one of my assistant coaches.
Okay. And how long have you been coaching at any level?
I've been coaching at the high school level approximately 33 years.
And how long did you actually play football at any level?
Oh, high school, college, 2 years professionally. So you're talking 8-10 years.
Okay. So you knew Elias originally through his parents, through his dad coaching. How often would you see Elias through the years?
I would see him quite often, doing football camps during the summer, different coaching events, tagging along with his dad at coaching stops. Then I was blessed to have him to be on my staff when I was a head coach at Shortridge High School. He was home from college, and he became my linebacker coach 2012.
Okay, so when he come home from college, he helped you at Shortridge?
Yes, ma'am.
How was he around the kids?
He was great. He was great. He, I thought, we had discussions about if his football career didn't work out, that this would be a great opportunity for him to come back and mentor young men and to give back. And, it's kind of tough when a young guy gets into the coaching ranks to separate the friendship and the coaching. And he was a big brother to a lot of those young men. And it was also a blessing to have him to be a coach and do a lot of things that the older guys didn't want to do. But he was so enthusiastic about coaching and helping out that there was nothing that we didn't ask he wouldn't do.
Were there any of the kids, any type of kids that he was particularly drawn to or really seemed to try to help extra?
You know, we always have one or two kids who have tough lives. You know, those kids who just know more than we adults know. And, you know, Elijah took on the role to some of the kids who had tough lives, you know, letting them know that this was the way out, education. He was very mentoring to those young men. And one young man, Mr. King, Jeremy King, who was our quarterback, he was a knucklehead, but Elijah got to talk to him and brought him around. I don't know if Elijah remembers this, but he was one of them. You couldn't tell anything, but after spending the time on the defensive ball with Elijah and that defensive staff, this young man, he's now very successful in life with the family.
I want to talk to you now a little bit about football. When Elliahs was playing in the 90s through the early 2010 teens, was there a distinct protocol around concussions?
Not as it is today. Not that even back when I played, you know, you get dinged up on the field, and the coach will tell you, hey, you got your bell rung, get back in the game. There was never really a big discussion per se about kids having concussions. Now we were introductory to certifications that we had to know the size of kids that may possibly had a concussion during the game and related those information to the trainer. But it wasn't like it is today. There wasn't a big protocol of, you know, concussion is leading to this, concussion is leading to that in our athletes as it is today.
Was the philosophy more like just play through it back then?
I think we all were guilty of having that, you know, hey coach, I'm kind of dinged up, you okay, kind of get back in there. Now granted, if we knew a kid that we felt that was seriously hurt, we would never put that kid back into a game. I can only speak for me and myself and my staff. I can't speak for other staff, but I knew if a kid was seriously hurt or banged up, we would not put that kid, you know, he was woozy, walking to the other huddle, that type of thing. I'd always not let that kid, you know, he definitely had to be clear by the trainer before he could go back into the game.
Would it be unusual for a football player that might be a little woozy or dinged up to try to avoid eye contact with the coach?
Absolutely. And I've had that happen before and had to be like, oh, no, wait a minute, get that guy out of there. You know, because of the competitiveness of that young man, you know, I'm okay, and run back out on the field. So you get those things you had to watch for, but absolutely, I experienced that myself in my playing days.
So, I want to talk about the position that Elliahs played. Do you remember what he played?
Playing inside linebacker.
Okay. And what does inside linebacker and middle linebacker, what do those positions do?
Those positions are, you have to be able to be making tackles between the tackles, between the offensive tackles. From tackle to tackle, those gaps were yours on the inside of the defense. You were kind of our leader in that position. That was the guy that I always communicate. That's the guy that communicates the defense in today's defenses. He calling the shots, but that guy would be a tough guy. That guy was taking on the fullbacks, coming at it head on, taking on double teams from the interior offensive lineman. He was getting blocked so much, he really had to be a scrapper. That's probably the most physical position on your defense, is being able to have a great middle linebacker. Okay.
Is there any doubt, based on your years of experience, both as a player and as a coach, that Elliahs would have suffered concussions during his playing days?
I can't assume. I can't say predict that he did, but there's no question in my mind that there were a lot of headshots that he received in those games. I really do believe that because, once again, that's the most physical position on our defense. I don't know, I don't have any data stating that he in fact did have a concussion at any of those times, but I can guarantee you he got his bell rung in a lot of those games, taking on big offensive linemen. And back in that time, it was a full bag coming to block you on ISO plays. You were isolated. You had to get off blocks. You had to shed several types of blocking schemes that were geared at blocking that middle linebacker.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mormon. I don't have any other questions.
Ross?
Good morning, Mr. Mormon. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir.
So, Mr. Mormon, I just want to make sure I heard your testimony correctly. You played high school football, is that correct?
I did.
And where was that?
Owensboro, Kentucky, at Owensboro Catholic High School.
And you played for 4 years, is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And then you played college ball, is that accurate also?
Yes, sir. Indiana University.
Here in the Big Ten, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the years you played at Indiana University, what were those?
79 through 82. Graduated in 1983.
And then you testified that you played 2 years in the NFL, is that accurate?
Yes, sir. 83, 84.
And what teams were you on? What teams were you playing for in 83 and 84?
I was on the Miami Dolphins roster.
So your years of playing football, those years exceeded the defendants' years of playing football. Wouldn't that be correct?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned that you played at Indiana University, right?
Correct.
And you're familiar that Indiana University publishes a yearly media guide, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And in that media guide, it lists every former player dating back to the 1920s who have ever been on a professional team's roster. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
And your name's not in that as being on the Miami Dolphins at any time. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
So your testimony today that you were on the Miami Dolphins roster in 83 and 84 conflicts with the publication that your alma mater publishes on a yearly basis. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that, but let me expound, because even though you were not on the roster, you were still on the payroll, because those times I was on injury reserve list. If you look at the injury reserve list of the Miami Dolphins, you can see my name on that list. I do have.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I do have in my possession a National Football Alumni card that I received for being on IR and being a part of the NFL those 2 years.
And that brings me to my next question. The Miami Dolphins, they also publish an all-time list of people who have been on their roster. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
And your name's not on that either, is it?
It's not on there because of the injury reserve that I won status with the team.
Now, you stated that you received an NFL card. The NFL also has a database that lists their all-time players, correct?
Correct.
And your name's not in that either, is it?
I would disagree. I have the card. If you call NFL a former league player, they got me down for 2 years of experience. I did not reach the experience of 3 years at the time where you would be vested.
And then finally, you mentioned that you testified that you were on the Miami Dolphins in 83. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Right. And you were fined that year, actually, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And that fine was related to your involvement in drugs, correct?
Correct.
I would object to this as for read.
It's their witness, Judge. It goes to his credibility. He's being presented as an authority on football. I think his background it was expounded upon regarding his background in football. So, and that door has been opened, so I think it's all relevant. It's related to his football career, Judge.
I'm not sure. What does the use of drugs have to do with his football career?
Because I think it makes it less likely that he was on that team for 2 years based on the other evidence. He was fined initially when he was started by head coach Don Shula $500 for possessing marijuana. So I think it bolsters the inaccuracy of his representation in addition to the IU media guide, in addition to the Miami Dolphins career roster list.
Objection, but for a limited purpose, it's offered. So,
Thank you.
next question.
Yes. So, since you've been coaching, sir, you coach here at the high school level in the Indianapolis area, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you coached with the defendant's father, is that accurate?
That's correct.
And you coached with the defendant, is that correct?
That's correct.
But you never actually coached the defendant, is that also correct?
Correct.
So when you assume that the defendant may have experienced concussion or concussion-like symptoms, you have no firsthand knowledge because you were never on the sidelines with the defendant during his playing career. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. But I also like to mention that I did.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. You answered the question. Thank you.
Next question.
Thank you, Judge. Now, you stated that you played 18 years of football, correct?
Correct.
And that was back in the time where the advances in helmet technology were not what they are today. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely correct.
And your position was actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, a linebacker and a defensive lineman. Is that correct?
No, I was a defensive lineman.
Okay, defensive line, a middle guard, right? That's what they used to call nose man back in the day. Is that correct?
Middle guard, defensive end.
And so the technology or the helmets, the type of helmets that you were using back during your playing days, they were not as sophisticated as the helmets that are used in today's era. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And you played for 18 years, so during those 18 years, you had a lot of collisions. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
And you testified that you've been an educator and a coach for 32 years. Is that accurate?
Correct.
In addition to that, you've worked 14 years in the Department of Corrections. Is that also accurate?
That's accurate.
And ever since playing football, you yourself, you've lived a law-abiding life. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
You've been able to follow the laws of the state of Indiana. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Despite those 18 years of playing football, correct?
Correct.
And the levels of football that you actually play, the Big Ten and possibly the NFL, those were higher levels with bigger, stronger players than the levels that the defendant played, correct?
Correct.
I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Mr. Mormon, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Don Shula, was he the coach of the Dolphins during the period that you were on the team?
Yes, he was, ma'am.
And if he fined someone, he would have only been able to find someone that was on the team, is that right?
That's correct.
No other questions.
Reader Cross? All right, that will conclude Mr. Warren's testimony. Then you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. One moment.
For the record, it completes the plane of Exhibit Devil E as in Edward. Parties want to approach. Members, please feel free to stand and stretch. Having conferred with counsel, today we've got through quite a bit, so that we are not done today. But it does appear back on the point where I will not need you tomorrow. So you will be able to go about doing whatever it is you will want to do tomorrow. So I want to make sure that you do that at your earliest opportunity. We still have witnesses this afternoon. We are going to take afternoon break, but I will let you know as soon as I could. Okay? So with that, we're going to be in a 15-minute recess. Your former express opinion about the guilt or innocence of a defendant. You've read all the evidence here from counsel and the court's final instructions. You may discuss this case among yourselves, provided that you all together in the jury room. You definitely all guilt or innocence. Anyone does try to talk to you about this case, you must report to the court immediately. We'll be in a 15-minute recess. All rise.
My name is Dennis Futrell, and it's spelled Dennis Futrell.
Mr. Patel, what do you do for a living?
I'm a barber.
And how long have you been a barber?
I've been cutting for 30 plus years.
30 plus years? How do you know Elliahs Dorsey?
He used to come and get his haircut ever since he was a little boy.
Since he was a little boy?
Yes.
Do you know about how long or how old he was when he started coming?
He was at least 7 or 8.
7 or 8. Did you ever, and is that how you knew him, was
Yes.
cutting his hair?
Yes.
Did you ever know about Elliahs coaching football?
Yes, I did. He was passionate about football. He did coach football. He even brought kids in with the haircut on occasion.
He'd bring kids into your shop to get a haircut?
Yes.
Who paid for it?
Elliahs did.
And I remember when he was away at college, did you remain Elliahs' barber throughout adulthood?
Yes.
Did you ever know him to have a girlfriend named Bianca?
We never really talked about his relationship issues. No, I don't.
Okay. You talked more about football.
Yes, sports.
And so you didn't know Bianca at all?
No.
Now I want to talk to you about Elliahs a day or two before the shooting. Did you notice any changes in Elliahs?
You said a day or two before?
Yes.
Well, that night he started calling me.
Okay. And tell us about him calling you that night before.
He started calling me, and he was basically making accusations that I was messing with his girlfriend. And I was just like, no, that's not true. I wouldn't do you like that. I immediately knew that something wasn't right, that if he wasn't acting like himself.
That wasn't how he would normally talk to you?
Right, exactly.
And you never had an affair with Bianca?
I don't even know who she is.
Okay. And I am showing you what's been marked for identification as Defense Exhibit DD, and I'm showing you some highlighted phone calls, 317-667-9303. Was that your phone number back then?
Yes, still is.
Still is, okay. And would referring to these help explain your testimony to the jury? I move to admit DD for demonstrative purposes.
No objection.
Motion to publish.
You may show D is in David, correct?
Yes.
Admitted without objection, and published to the jury.
Can you see that now, Dennis?
Yes.
And these calls they happened an hour later than what it says on the document you're looking at. But I want to look at this call on April 9th from, it would be about 10:56 to about 11:35. So about 40-minute phone call. What was that phone call about?
Like I said, he was basically making accusations about me messing with his girlfriend, and I kept trying to reiterate that, that was the case. I don't even know who she is, and basically asking him what was wrong. Something didn't seem right. I remember asking him, "Are you okay? Do you need to come so you can talk or whatever?" But he just kept, making those accusations. He even asked if I could go to the shop to cut his hair. And I was like, not at this hour, especially, with you accusing me of, making those accusations about your girlfriend. I'm not getting ready to come up to the shop to cut your hair. Something was off. He wasn't himself, definitely.
And having known him, if he was about 27 when this happened, and you knew him at least since he was 8, 15 years, that's not how he would behave around you?
I still think he's a good guy. I don't know. To this day, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I don't understand.
But you didn't want to go meet him?
No, because I know he wasn't. I didn't feel like he was in his right mind, and I didn't know what might transpire, so I didn't know.
Okay. Now I want to show you what's been entered as Defense Exhibit A. And these are some text messages between Elliahs and his ex-girlfriend. Can you see those?
Yes.
And specifically, these last two, Bianca, would she ever set up hair appointments to have him get his hair cut?
Yes, he has. Mm-hmm.
Would Bianca be the one that would?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, no.
No, you're fine. And who is Ms. Wanda?
Miss Wanda is another barber that works in the barber shop that I currently work in.
Okay. No further questions?
Any cross?
I have nothing on that, Judge. Thank you.
Sir?
I have nothing on that, Judge. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you have questions for this witness? Do you see any hands on that, sir? You may step down. Can he be released from the subpoena?
Yes, Judge.
All right, defense, you may call your next.
Defense calls Rick Payne.
Can you tell the jurors who you are and how you spell your name?
Yes, name is Greg Bacon Jr., G-R-E-G-G. Last name is spelled B-C-O-N, like when Chief for breakfast.
Mr. Bacon?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell the jurors who know Elliahs Dorsey?
I come to know Elliahs beginning of his senior year. I was hired on as officer coordinator at Arlington High School.
And did his father also work on the coaching staff at Arlington?
He did. His father, Larry's actually, who I interviewed with, he was the defensive coordinator. Coming up through the youth rankings, I noticed that Larry was somebody that I wanted to meet and kind of learn more about the game. And so when I had an opportunity to interview over there, I was excited. And from what I understand, Larry was one of the instrumental parts that got me hired on as officer coordinator over at Arlington.
Had you known Elliahs' father, Larry, well, you said you met him when he was coaching in the youth league, or both of you were coaching in the youth
He had the youth organization, Naptown Sports. I was coaching at that point over at TAD for under another coach, but I knew of him again, like I said, just coaching over at Arlington and wanting to get into the high school ranks.
And when you say TAB, is that Tabernacle Presbyterian Church?
Correct, yes, sir.
And at that time, were you aware that Elias' father was also participating in the PAL athletically?
I had heard some information about it. Just like I said, when I actually met him for the first time, I had only been coaching here maybe 2 seasons before I met him.
And did you know both Elias and his brother Deontay?
I didn't meet them until I actually started coaching there. I knew Larry had 2 sons, but I didn't know. I knew they were on the team, but I didn't know who they were until I began coaching.
So you met both Elias and Deontay when you began coaching at
Correct.
Was there an approach at Arlington about having the coaching staff take an active role in getting players focused on not only playing well but raising their grades?
Absolutely.
And was it not uncommon to assist or ask for the assistance of some of the leaders on that team and helping the coaches with that?
Correct, sir. We were going through a phase where we didn't have a lot of numbers. We didn't have a lot of coaches. So some of the leaders of the team, like the Dorsey brothers, we kind of leaned on to help with some of the knuckleheads, if you will, on the team to kind of help them in line. They acted as kind of mentors inside the building because none of us on the coaching staff except for the head coach worked in the building. So they acted as eyes and ears for the players to kind of keep them in line, kind of report back to us things that they were experiencing throughout the school. That way we can kind of either address them with the team or just kind of keep a cohesive unit because we face a lot of things from the summer, even going into the season.
And both Elias and his brother Deontay
Correct.
were
Yes, sir.
instrumental in
Absolutely.
fulfilling that role for you and the other coaches.
Correct, yes, sir.
And after Elias graduated from Arlington, did he return to assist in coaching at Arlington?
Yes, when he came back, when he came back, I was under Larry with my own team, and Elias, Arlington at that point we had moved away from Arlington, so I think our first experience coaching together outside youth was at John Marshall High School.
Okay. And was Elias also involved with you or in coaching youth football?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And was that specifically with the PAL League?
It was. Naptown Sports was under PAL, so when Larry offered me my own team, first time head coach, so with them knowing a little bit more about it, Elias was able to, when he wasn't coaching his team, come over and kind of give us assistance. My coaching staff, we were all young guys trying to learn more about coaching, so there were some points to where as a former player, and somebody who's still playing the game at that point kind of help us out different things. One of the things that I learned specifically from Elias as well as Deontay, anybody's familiar with how an offensive lineman pulls or comes around to make a block, there's a certain way you do your feet that kind of keeps your shoulders square. That they taught me about that I didn't know. So those are some of the things when I say that they taught me things to make me a better coach. That's exactly what I'm referencing.
And in the youth league, did Elias, when he was coaching, primarily coach very young kids?
Yeah.
We're talking 5, 6, 7 years.
Yes, sir. Right.
And can you explain to the jurors what it takes, what special skills it takes to deal with coaching young kids?
Organized chaos from what I can see, if you can imagine. You see the videos of little kids with the big helmets running around, and often looking over at Elias with 20 to 25 kids just kind of, hey, you stand here, you stand here, and you hit one kid in the face, another kid has wandered off, and it's like I remember telling one of my assistants, I was like, he's got a lot of patience. There's no way in the world I would ever be able to do what he did for a full season by himself, mind you, with 20 to 25 kids that young.
So fair to say it takes a considerable amount of patience.
More than what I have, yes, sir.
And you mentioned that he also assisted in coaching, assisted you in coaching.
Correct.
In the youth league. You were coaching older kids.
Yeah, my team was, I had 12U team, so my guys were anywhere from the age of 10 up until 12 years old. We would usually play the late afternoon games. Elias, because he had the younger guys, would always play the 8 or 9 o'clock games. So he would coach his guys, get them home, and then come out to the field and help us later on with our games.
And was the name of your team the Utes?
Correct, yes, sir.
Could I have M, please? Thank you. Mr. Bacon, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked and entered into evidence as Defendant's Exhibit M. Understanding the man who's a juvenile's face is before, but would that be the age of one of the kids on your team?
Correct.
Okay. And do you recognize Elias in that photo?
I do, yeah.
And would this have been taken at a community day?
Yes, sir. I believe that particular morning, we knew they were having a community day. We had practice that morning and went our team over to the community day where I think we did a curveball. We did curveball and there were some other functions, but it's kind of a day out for the kids. And they had things in the park, so they had bounce houses and ice creams and things like that in the park. We did that in the park. Did a light practice, walked around there to be involved in the community day.
And can you briefly explain to the juries what community day is? Obviously, this is still under the PAL, correct?
Correct, yes, sir. It was, I'm not exactly sure what the name of the neighborhood was, but when we brought the practice to the park, it was off of Michigan Road and Andrew J. Brown. Martin Luther King kind of intersect. There was a park there right by the Dairy Queen. We would park there. We would practice there. So the neighborhood kind of embraced us. They would always come out to the practice and watch us practice. Sometimes bring water, Gatorade. I remember a couple of practices where people go to the park, bring the kids ice cream. So we wanted to kind of be in a position where we would help that neighborhood, that community. I remember setting up us going out doing work for an elderly person in the neighborhood, kind of doing yard work, cleaning up the neighborhood, stuff like that. So we would always try to involve, if we moved parks from year to year, try to do something in that particular neighborhood or that community, kind of give back, because wherever we went, those people embraced us.
And did Elias coach one of your grandkids?
Yeah, he did, yes.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit CC. You had a chance to view what's on the splash drive.
Yes, sir.
And it is basically a very short video of Elias coaching your grandson.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And you can say that what is on this flash drive is a fair and accurate representation of what is depicted.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And move to admit Defendant's CC.
No objection. No objection. Just what year is this from? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Your grandson would have been.
He is 15 now, so he would have been 9. Yeah, 9. Our team was 12U, but if you were 9 in so many months or so many days from turning 10 during the season, you could play up. It was his first year. Of course, he wanted to play for Grandpa, so he had been 9 going on 10.
So 2017, 2018?
Correct.
Just so we're clear, this is CC. C is in Charlie.
Correct.
We show CC admitted without objection. You may publish.
There you go.
Mr. Bacon, did you play college football?
Yes, sir.
Where did you play college football?
University of Utah.
How many years did you play that?
2.
And what position did you play?
Running back.
How many years total did you play football?
6 years.
Okay. How many?
6.
6?
Yes, sir.
4 years in high school and 2 in college?
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to ask you a little bit about when you coached at Arlington. Was there anybody on the staff that specialized in recognizing and treating concussions?
No, sir.
I mean, was there any type of concussion protocol at Arlington at that time?
Not at that point, no, sir.
Okay. And had you, as a player, ever experienced a concussion?
Correct, yes, sir.
You have?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what are the symptoms you feel when you're concussed?
My first concussion, I believe, was my most severe concussion. I don't have any recollection of the day of, the day after. My first recollection of that is my then girlfriend at the time asking me, do I remember her? And I remember saying yes to her, but later on, come to find out, I couldn't remember my brother, couldn't remember my mother, could not remember my sister. I do remember me personally being disoriented. I couldn't stand to watch TV, couldn't be around light. I do remember back then, this was in '93 when I got my first concussion. We were, our high school was giving a carnival, and a friend of mine and I had these matching outfits that we were going to wear, and I recall wanting to go to this carnival so bad because I wanted to wear this, this outfit. And I remember looking in the mirror and had my shoes on the wrong feet. I often talk about that, but that's my fondest memory of that. In total, I'm claiming 3 concussions. I know I've had more. I remember one time in summer training, I got hit, and actually I did a block, and I remember guys tapping me on the helmet, and it seems like every hit, different stars and things like that, but I didn't say much to anybody coming in as an incoming freshman. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to lose time, trying to make a name for myself. And the third one, I just don't remember at all.
So, I mean, your response, not saying anything because you don't want to risk your playing time.
Correct.
Based upon your experience in dealing with other players and playing football, would that be an uncommon response? Or
Not at all. No, sir. Not uncommon at all.
I mean, I'm assuming that if you saw Elliahs or Deontay being severely injured during a game, you would take some action like that.
Now, yes, sir.
Yeah. And I think you described some of the symptoms as memory loss, disorientation, light sensitivity.
Correct.
Would that be fair to say?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see anything when Elliahs was playing that concerned you that he might have suffered a concussion?
At the time, no, because I didn't have any training on concussions back in that day. One thing distinctly stands out to me, we were playing in Jeffersonville, and I'm not sure who made the hit, but Elliahs picked the ball up, and the biggest thing was always getting our seniors a touchdown at some point in time in the game. And he runs back the 65-yard fumble, and they got a penalty, a kicking penalty, so they brought it back. And I recall him coming to the sideline and talking to him about it. Everybody's excited. You scored it, although they brought it back, and he had no recollection of what happened whatsoever. knowing now, learning about concussions as I progressed in coaching, I should have seen it. But to me, I think back to even coaching at another school, seeing a kid concussed and not recognizing it. But now that I know more about concussions and with some of the training that we had to go through to be a coach, I should have picked that up.
I have no further questions.
You may cross.
Sir, you've had a few concussions while you were playing, is that right?
Correct, yes, sir.
And at least at one of them, I believe you testified that when you had it, other people recognized that you were out of it.
From what I understand, yes, sir.
Okay. And then, do you still coach football?
No, sir.
No? When did you stop coaching?
COVID.
COVID? Okay.
Correct.
So 2020. So you coached how many years?
Let's see. After I left school, I did a brief stint in Utah. I stayed in Utah 20 years after I stopped playing football. I did my first taste of youth football there. When I moved back to Indiana, I did my best to try to get back into coaching football, which started over at TAG. So I would probably have to say in total, maybe 20 years.
Okay. And despite your concussions, you've never been in trouble with the law, correct?
No. I mean, as a youth, I remember getting into a fight in high school or something like that. You know.
Yeah. But as an adult?
No, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
Do you agree?
No reason to recommend that, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you have questions for this witness? I see at least one here. Have you had any additional symptoms from your concussions as you are an adult?
Yes. It was really hard for me to watch the movie Concussion. I only made it to maybe 15 minutes into the movie. Because I saw some of the things that some of those actor portrayals of the football players, what they were going through, things that I've gone through since my concussions. And I think that was my way of saying, I don't want to admit that something's wrong. But yeah, on some basis, and I have to stop and ask my wife, was I too aggressive when I said this? We have a grandson that lives with us that's 15. Of course, we're trying to keep him on the straight path, and there's oftentimes 15-year-old boy, of course, is going to make mistakes, and there are those conversations that you have, and I always ask, I mean, even up until last night, he and I had a conversation, and first thing I did ask my wife, was I too hard? Did I say anything wrong? And some of those things where in the movie they depict, some of the guys being angry or, having a short fuse or just not remembering a lot of things. I've now I call it my old man stage. I turned 49, and I find myself doing voice notes and things like that because I don't have a lot of short-term memory. And so some of those things that I witnessed during that first 15 minutes of that movie, I noticed that I see things like that in myself, and I don't want to admit. But now I see that it is real, and I can't ignore it, so I just have to be more aware of it, and so in every day that things that I do, I always try to confirm with myself first, or my wife, or somebody close to me is like, hey, did I handle that correctly? Did I ruffle those feathers? Because I've been told, I've told in some.
You don't mean to catch, I do mean to catch you.
Yeah.
You can restrict yourself just to the symptoms.
Okay, symptoms.
The question was symptoms.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, the memory loss. Sometimes having a short fuse. In situations where I shouldn't be upset about, a bathroom not being clean. Then, you may do it a little bit more younger than you should. Things like that. I think between the short fuse and memory loss would be the two that I feel like I suffer from.
Questions on jurors, questions, defense? State?
Just one question. Sir, in 2017 and 18, you allowed your 9-year-old grandson to play up against 12-year-olds in football. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And that concussion movie, it came out in 2015, the movie that you're referencing made you feel, right?
I'm not sure what year it came out. No, I'm not sure. But yeah, my grandson played up, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
sir.
allowed him to play up against kids that are 3 years older than.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Questions? Further questions from the jury? You don't see any hands on that, sir. Thank you. Defense, do you have any other witnesses we can bring in today?
No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will complete all of the evidence that we're going to be able to do today. And we will not in session tomorrow. Here, just as a reminder, it's a professional witnesses have obligation in other courts and other parts of the state. We're going to be hearing from doctors come Tuesday. Again, Monday is a holiday, so we're out of session. So you have a 4-day weekend. So the good thing is you've got a break. You've got time to go home. The bad thing is you're going to have a longer period of being exposed to people who have no idea what you're doing, or you may run into friends over the weekend, you haven't seen them for a while, and may inadvertently want to talk about current events, which might be this particular case. Again, please keep in mind everything I've told you every day. If someone starts to talk about it, you just be matter of fact that you cannot talk about that, and you need to change the subject or do something else. But again, please appreciate how hard you have already worked this first week, so that we don't have to undo anything as we go into the second week of the trial. We're still anticipating that from a scheduling purpose, we will definitely be in Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. I don't know about Thursday. My goal would be to finish on Wednesday if possible. I think the last day is practical, I think is Thursday, as I understand it now. But as you know, that kind of changes as we go along. And so in no way will you go into a third week, I can tell you that. And so we would constantly keep you updated so you can make plans and arrangements. I hope you have an opportunity to get a nice restful weekend. If you choose to enjoy the unique circumstance of the NBA All-Star activity and all the rest of that stuff, fine. There's obviously other things to do in Indianapolis as well. I understand we might even get some snow or whatever. So have a good weekend, get a good amount of rest. Again, if you want to stay and work on your notes, knowing that you're going to be gone for a few days, please feel free to stay as long as you need to. If not, if you're done, you are excused for the evening. Again, with the admonition that you should know by heart. You're not to form or express an opinion, not to guilt or innocence of the defendant. You've heard all of the evidence. You are counsel on the court's final instructions. You may discuss this case amongst yourselves, provided that you're all together in the room. You don't go to the ultimate question of guilt or innocence. If anyone does try to talk to this case, you must report that. Have a great weekend. On Tuesday, I would like you to be here at 8:45. We'll get started at 9. Was that the question? Yeah. Realized I hadn't gotten to that. So if you could be here at 8:45, we'll see you so we can begin the presentation of evidence on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. With that, Lord, all rise.